Hey you guys, welcome to another build tutorial. Today I'm going to be doing a follow-up video to my last build tutorial, which you can find up in the right hand corner. Today we're going to continue to use those building concepts to design another build you may have seen from the Adventure Pack mod pack. In this video we'll be building based on some core build concepts I live by, and we again will not be building anything block by block. So follow along and show me what you come up with over on my Twitter, linked in the description below. Last time we had a couple of wonderful builds come out of the tutorial from Michael S. as shown here. And also from OzTurtle. I think both of those turned out beautifully, and I'm thrilled to be able to show off your builds here today. Now do me a quick favor and go down there and smash that like button. The likes really help the channel, and that's all you gotta do is hit that like button. So let's quickly jump into it. Just like last time, this build was built in a mod pack, so the mod in question specifically used was Blockus. So we're gonna go over the block palette, and I will show you the vanilla version and the version including Blockus. So of course we're going to go over the vanilla blocks first. The notable things here are the oak leaves and dark oak leaves on the right hand side. The rest of these are normal blocks, as you can tell from vanilla Minecraft. And as we work our way through, we're using a variety of different woods. Be sure to pause the video and create this block palette for yourself in your world so you know what is to be used. I'm not going to give exact block numbers because I don't know the exact block numbers. I mean, why would I? And of course, the Blockus blocks are shown here. We're going to use beveled yellow glass. We're going to use some of the brick granite and then gray shingles with the charred trap doors. Those are the extra ones if you want to use the Blockus mod. Just like the last build, this build is based on a form of inspiration. For this one, I wanted to make myself a villager trading hall. So the way I started with this before doing anything was making sure I built something large enough that could contain a villager trading hall. So you'll notice here on the very first floor, this actually has room for 22 villagers, all with functioning pistons on them, sticky pistons to work the things with little chambers in the back to house zombies. So that's something to keep a note of when you're doing this build, what you want the purpose to be. You want to aim for that general purpose. If you do want to go for the villager trading hall, this one is going to go 5 blocks underground, counting the layer that you'll actually be standing on. So that's block number 1, and then 4 blocks deep to fit all the mechanics for a villager trading hall. So keep that in mind when you go to build this somewhere, that you're going to need to be able to go underground a bit. Knowing that we're in a super flat world, I've given myself a platform here so we have room to actually go down underground for this build. Now I have exactly shaped out the exact build of this, and if you would like to have the exact size and framing counts for all sides, this is a great time to pause the video and you can copy it into your world right this moment. That way you have the exact same founding start as I do. However, again, from this point forward, I will not be doing a block by block. Rather, we're just going to keep going over the build concepts. So here we go. Now, because this is supposed to be a trading hall, I will go over this bit real quick with you. We've come down 2 whole steps from the log, which makes it a 2 block difference. And then we're going to have our floor down right here with a 4 block tall area. I have divided out these little sections. So effectively, we're going to have a block here, and this is where like the workstation is going to go, which leaves this back empty space for our villagers, and they're going to be standing on trap doors, and we're going to have levers in front to be able to control those trapdoor or those pistons with the trapdoors, and then we'll have the zombies behind them. So I wanted you to take a look at this as it is right now, in case you also want to use this as a villager trading hall, and take a look at what it's done to the outside here, how it's changed our initial shape. This is gonna happen. It's normal. It's fine. We are going to be using a garden all the way around the house to hide all of these things. Of course, we want the lights in here so we don't have anything spawning in here. We just have our named zombies running in the back with nothing else showing up. So we do want the lighting, and we're effectively going to go around and we're going to start kind of blocking out the outlines of where we want this dirt garden to effectively surround the house. The big thing to watch out for here is to make sure that we don't do anything like this and leave blocks out. We want to make sure that everything is covered, and we want to come out just far enough so that when we actually go in and we start filling all of this in, there's plenty of room up top so we can do another layer, and that will hide all of the lighting that we use, whether it be shroom lights or glowstone or whatever you want to use. We want to be able to hide this stuff on the outside with some kind of grass or coarse dirt block, and then we're going to use flowers, trapdoors, and barrels to prettyify this thing and make it look nice. So if you want to, before you dive into adding in this little area, you can take your stone bricks or whatever it is you're using to outline and just bring it up a few blocks, hovering over the top. That way you don't lose sight of the shape of your build as you're going through adding in the trading hall section. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to add in all of the beautification stuff around it, and then we can jump into the actual like details and texturing of the build. So after filling out all the grass, you can see the areas of where the grass was actually coming out, and then I've restored the original shape. These spruce planks that you see in the center here are actually where grass originally was. So when I was actually plotting out where my grass was going to be, these weren't slabs, they were just grass. There was no bricks out here, and I just came through and I re-established the original shape of the build all the way around, so we remember where all of this actually is. Now we can go through and we want to pick a few corners. This is a good one, maybe this one, and we're just going to dot some barrels in. And the idea with the barrels, their main purpose is to help hide corners that trapdoors otherwise couldn't do. So for here, for example, we have this exposed grass and we can't place another trapdoor in there. So in those areas, that's where we want to put our barrels. It's so we don't see the sides of the grass. We're going to put a slab on top of them so you also can't see the top of the barrel. So we're going to go through all the way around where the grass meets the main floor area, and we're going to wrap these all the way around really fast. Now, with all of those in place, I want to go back to the texturing method. We're going to use some coarse dirt here. We want to think of this as like a kind of flower garden. So ultimately, every single block in here is going to have a big flower on it. So really what we want to do at this point is kind of really mess it up with the coarse dirt. The idea is that the soil has been recently tilled and that the grass is trying to come back into the flower bed itself. So we want to go through with our coarse dirt and try to replace a lot of the grass. You can come up in a few places, give it a little extra height, just give it a little more detail. Like this corner right here, it's going to, maybe piled up into that corner a little bit. So we're going to come through, we're going to get all of this coarse dirt in place. We want a lot of it, so don't be too sparing with it. It's supposed to be the dominant block in this situation, so go nuts with it. And once you have all of your coarse dirt in place, then go through and cover every single dirt and grass block with one of your 2 tall flowers. You can choose any of the 2 tall flowers you want. I went with the lilacs because I just think they complement the red of the bricks, which we're going to be predominantly using the most. Now hold on real quick. Putting in a bunch of flowers like this can be a very bright, obnoxious thing to do. So grab your dark oak, and actually you can place in some of the dark oak leaves piling up in a few places instead. This will help break up the flowers a little bit and kind of bring a little bit more greenery to it, so it's not so bright. A little insight as to why we went underground for the villager trading hall. These things can take a lot of space, and I wanted to make sure that we had enough space for a villager trading hall that wouldn't strongly demand that we make major sacrifices later on with the shape of the build. So I took it underground so we could hide it, and we're using the flower garden specifically for hiding it. This actually gives us a couple of benefits. We do get the full advantage of the large trading hall, which is fantastic, but we also get to have the flower garden, and we can use basic materials. We don't have to worry so much about texturing down inside here, unless of course you're somebody who really likes texturing on the inside of your builds. I personally don't care so much what it looks like on the inside, as long as it looks pretty on the outside. And for this, that means that we don't actually start seeing the layer of the house until this level right here. So we don't actually have to begin texturing until this level. So we can actually tackle an entire floor of the house with very little texturing. That's one of the biggest headaches most players have when it comes to building and making something look really nice, is the texturing. There's only a few sections of the build on the outside below this level here that you have to do a little bit of texturing to. So it's a really great way to get a lot of work done while saving yourself some of the headache and hassle of the texturing. But now we're going to be jumping into the upper sections, and texturing is the name of the game. We're going to add one more layer going all the way around. Don't worry about texturing just yet, but we're going to go all the way around the original outside layer just like this. And something that we talked about a little bit last time is that you can choose to do your exterior based on your interiors, or you can do the opposite. You can actually do your interior based off of the exterior. Here I went a little, I did the opposite method of last time effectively. So here we're actually going to be doing the exterior based off of the interior. So I want to get all of this worked out, and then from this point I kind of just decided where the floor was going to be. I already know that this is 4 blocks tall, so that's already really tall. So I'm going to run my beams going across kind of evenly. I'm trying to avoid sections like this one, except in this case we're actually going to have a stair going here and here with our slab in the middle, so that's actually perfectly fine. We're going to do one here and here as well, and this slab's actually going to go a block above it, and then we can fill these in like so. That way we get a little opening just like that. So we're going to run the beams across, and make sure that you run your beams all the way to the border of your house. So that's the important part, because the entire top section here is our floor, so we want to make sure that we're including it. Now when we get these in, we are effectively going to come down here because we want it to look nice, and where we're going to put our floor in, we're actually going to wrap these stairs every place where it's going to be visible from down here. Again, try not to do too much block for block for you guys, to keep it simple, but you know, some of these things just, you know, kind of need a little bit more explaining than your average stuff. So this we're going to keep like that. That's going to be a slab where we're going to wrap our stairs around. So again, same thing on this side. We effectively want to wrap it like this and get all these stairs in place. The reason why we're doing it this way is because the rest of this is going to be slabs, and we don't want to have, if we just did slabs, right, we're going to end up with this. And that doesn't look nice from down here, and that's why we're making sure we're getting all these stairs in first. It's going to look all the same from the upper story, but from down here it will make all the difference. So now we can go through and we can start filling all this in. This tells us where our floor is specifically going to be, and knowing where our floors are going to be is going to be able to tell us where our windows go, and that's why this step is so important. So again, last time we did the exterior, which told us how to do the interior. This build we're doing the interior, which basically means just deciding where the floors go and where the ceilings go, and that tells us how much space we have to work with on the exterior for things like windows and balconies and such. So let's go ahead and fill all these in, and then we can go ahead and start working on the second story. All right, so we want to keep it really clean on the outside, so we're going to actually install a door right here. We're going to do this little trick right here, so this door is considered to be in the open position so zombies can't break it. Just a little thing I always do in all of my builds, so every time you see a build tutorial, when it comes to a door, you can bet I'm going to do that trick because it does keep the zombies out. So we're going to do this. We're going to come up here. We're going to lay in a trapdoor like that, and there we go. We got us kind of like a little hobbit hole, really. Like, it feels like it's going underground. And then we want to do like a beam somewhere in like the center of the room. Let's see, let's do right here. This kind of feels sort of center-ish. And I'm going to do a spiral staircase. Something to keep an eye out for is we don't really have a side of the wall to favor, so going to the center of the room is pretty much our best option. We'll go another beam up, we're going to cap it, and then we're going to do a wraparound staircase. So I like to do something very quick and simple just like this. We're going to wrap it all the way around, and then for safety's sake we're going to put in a few trap doors. That way when you're walking up and down this thing, you don't run the risk of walking off the edge. So if we get these wrapped all the way around just like this, you see we're not going to be able to walk off the edge of this. We can actually, you know, go all the way around. So wrap these things all the way around for safety's sake. And it's not the most important thing in the world, but if you do wrap it all the way around like this, we can actually install a little closet. I think I want to do the door this way. That way it opens like this. So we got a little closet. We can actually hide a little bit more storage in here if we really want to. And now we can get up here. So let's work on our blending now. So last time we talked about blending our bottom palette with our top palette. So in this case, it's the brick palette into the granite palette. And we're going to have about 3 layers. So 1, 2, 3. 3 layers of a transition. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pick one of the blocks and we're just going to do a full 3 layers. We're going to take it all the way around. Skip this front section. We'll come back to this, wrap it all the way around for the rest of it. And you should have something like this. Notice on my hotbar that we actually have both of the pallets for the bricks and the granite. So you can actually fit a full stack of each block for both pallets on your hotbar. Now for the front here, it does seem a little weird. We are going to bring it up 3 blocks, except this slab, don't worry about it. We're just going to lay in the block just like normal. So That's why I said hold on to that, because you can see through it, but we will address this issue. We're not going to actually end up replacing this block. It's kind of neat how it turns out. But at this point, I would like you to ignore the top 3 blocks that we just placed all the way through and do your texturing of these 3 bottom layers. So we're going to go through and we're going to start texturing these bottom layers. I personally like to start with a single block type and just get it laid in, and then I work my way to the next block type. And we can incorporate some of the practices that we discussed in the last video. If you're confused about how we do this, there's some bits in there about how mossy spreads in real life, and so you can go back and you can check that out if you want, and you can follow that. But I'm just going to go for something just kind of random all the way through. So go ahead, do it for your bottom 3 layers going all the way around. And now that we have that texture in place, we're going to take our granite, not the other kind of granite bricks or normal bricks. We're just going to take granite. And what I want to do is I want to go around and I want to replace a majority of this top layer with just straight granite. So we're going to go through for the top layer. It's going to be most of it. It's going to end up being replaced. To help show this transition, right? We want so this very bottom row is actually going to be mostly a brick variant with a few granite dotted here and there. So we want to think about it for both ends. If that granite's going to be a few and far between here, we want the bricks up top to also be kind of few and far between. And then the middle layer is just going to be, you know, almost like a 50-50 split. And we want to just use our straight granite at the moment because we're going to be able to do our texturing later, come through and just pick a few blocks to break out and replace with the other 2 variants. Since we don't have a lot of options in the other variant types, we are going to try to stick to being predominantly with the granite and using the other 2 as a complementary sort of block. So we're going to go through and do our top 3 layers, just exchanging these out. Again, middle row is going to be like a 50-50, top row is going to be predominantly granite, and bottom row is going to be predominantly brick. So we're just going to go through and change these out. Now that we've done the texturing for the granite bit, we're going to take the granite, we're going to do just a solid single layer up top of the granite to help show that there is a division between this transitional layer and what's predominantly just going to be the granite from this point forward. So we're just going to wrap this around again just visually so we can see where that line is and know where to not cross this line. And then we're going to take our stone brick palette, and for the same 3 layers we're going to kind of do the same thing. Now we're going to go through and we're going to start doing a texturing randomly throughout that. You see we got a lot of stone bricks. We want to break that up and get rid of a lot of these stone bricks and really start the texturing process for this as well. You see we had this original line down here that you can now see that we placed in that has no texturing. So we want to make sure that we're actually getting the texturing in and around all of the bricks. Feel free to punch out your flowers. You can always replace them. That's what I'm going to do. When I originally designed this, I actually built it from the inside out. So I was actually in here doing it. So you can build it from the inside. It'll help prevent you from having to punch out too many flowers. But yes, we're going to take our stone palette and we're going to go ahead and texturize these 3 layers with that as well. Okay, and with all the extra texturing done, from this point forward, hopefully you guys have your heads wrapped around the texturing process. So as we build up layers of this build, I'm just going to be using granite, and it's easier for me in creative mode to just use a single block and then after the fact go back through and texture it. So that's what I'm going to do. But you should have your heads wrapped around the texturing at this point. So if you want, as we build up in layers, feel free to actually do the texturing process as we go and just ignore the fact that I'm just using the granite purely. You can actually texture as we go from this point forward and keep in line with all the texturing. So because we're basing our exterior off of the interior, we need to figure out the interior next. For me, I wanted to do something a little fancier. I wanted to stay 1 block away from the edge of this guy because we're going to put some safety railings in here so we don't fall off. And so we're going to have this wrap all the way around, and that's going to put some limitations on what we can do where exactly. Let's see, we could take that one out. That one's probably fine. So like we can't put a beam on this block anymore because this trapdoor is in the way, so which means we have to be at least this kind of distance. So I'm going to put a beam here. Let's see, well, I'm going to skip 5 because I just wanted to have a more open feel in this area, to be totally honest. And then we're going to do something opposite. Let's skip 5 again, then we'll do a 3 just like that. We're going to bring these beams 3 blocks tall because I want to retain the same predominant height going up. So if we make these beams taller, we're going to end up with taller floors. And I actually don't want taller sections because overall the build will be a whole lot taller. And I kind of want to avoid that. I didn't want to do anything terribly big. And even knowing that I didn't want to do something terribly big, you can see that it still turned out to be pretty big. So you can still aim for small and still end up with something really large. We're going to run a beam across this. This is going to be the makings of the beginnings of the next floor. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. We're going to skip 3 blocks for the next beam, keeping the 3 block distance that we maintained down below. And then same thing for the other side. We're going to skip 3 blocks and do another beam. And you probably guessed this next part. We're going to actually do the stairs, and we're going to do this little transition thing again. It's not exactly as necessary this time around, but I wanted to retain some kind of consistency. So I did do the stairs for this one, just for consistency's sake, so it matches the downstairs. And with those stairs in place, let's do the rest of our stairs. So we're going to do little curves on this one. We're going to do little curves on that one. This is sort of somehow turning into a block by block tutorial. I promise it's not supposed to. Just wanted to give you kind of feel for how we're breaking this down. Ultimately, I'm leading towards this front bit because that's the tricky bit. I'm going to do some trapdoors in this just so we have kind of semi-thinner looking walls, and we'll do the same thing on these guys just to even it out. And then we're going to do the front section. You remember we have that hole in the front here, so we want to address that hole. I'm actually just going to grab my bricks, not my stairs. I need my bricks, and we're going to run this all the way across just like that. And then I'm going to take these beams like this, and I'm just going to run them like so. So we got a little platform here, and what that's going to look like from the front is you'll be able to see the wood there, but it really doesn't, like, you can't see inside of the build, which I think is really nice. But you can also you get the warmness of the color. And then I'm going to use my spruce stairs, and we're actually going to make a little bit of a staircase right here. And this is how we're going to get upstairs to the higher levels. And now not only do we have a way up, but we actually have like a little loft area. And this is actually going to signify where our first window can actually be. We're not going to do windows for the rest of this floor because they would end up being kind of low, and they're kind of would end up in our texture section, and I kind of wanted to avoid that. It's a lot of kind ofs, but you kind of get it, I think. Anyway, it was at this point that I decided I wanted to do more stairs going through like this, having these wrap around and connect in like that, and then having the stairs on this side just for kind of more of a stylistic sort of thing. And then we're going to run these stairs going across, and these stairs are actually important. We actually wanted these ones to work out a specific way. Now we're going to avoid these 3 for a second in their entirety, and we're going to do these stairs across like this. And then we will be able to basically slab the rest of everything. We'll be careful of the stairs. We're going to avoid the stairs. And we'll come back to this section in a little bit to address how that works out. But everything else can just be slabbed in for the rest of the floor. So from down here, we're going to actually wrap this one in so it wraps in like that. And then we want this guy in so he's wrapping in like this. And you see now we got an opposite direction one. And that is so we can come over here and then ultimately wrap the stairs just like that. And if we come and take a look at it from up here, it looks like a solid block. That's what we're aiming for in that particular instance right here. We're just going to wrap this over just like that. We're going to put in our slab right here. And then right here, we're going to do a trapdoor. So see, you won't bump your head on a trapdoor, but if it was a slab, you have an issue. You actually can't go through it. So trapdoor is the way to go, and we can actually move on from there and get up to our third story. Now for the third story, I had an itching for some big windows. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a single layer going across. We're going to make sure that this one is still a too tall window, so we want to make sure that's still a window, but we're going to do the single layer going all the way around, and we're ultimately going to make this floor 4 blocks tall before the ceiling instead of 3 like the last floor. I know I wanted to go for a 3 block average, but something about not having the larger windows just didn't sit right with me for the original build, so we're going to slap that in. And then I picked a few places for some doors. I had this feeling that, you know, this could be a good place for a balcony of sorts. These aren't the correct blocks. I just want to show you like kind of what I meant, you know, something that could wrap around like that. And then I wanted to have the ability to, we want to split these evenly, so we want to have the ability to have the big windows. So we have this guy, and this guy. And so of course, big windows, I wanted to do them 3 blocks tall, and this is specifically what dictated we needed to be at least a 4 block tall area. Now, when we had this big flat back area, so we wanted to avoid this because of the beam, so I put a door in right here, and this actually is going to end up becoming another balcony of sorts. It's just going to wrap around. Again, not the correct blocks, but showing you where the balcony is going to be, where the door is located. We have another large window here. You see it's perfectly in the center of this section. So we're going to wrap this in like this. Big glass in the middle with the panes on the sides. And then there was another one. I believe we squeezed it in right here. Let me double check. Yeah, we squeezed it in right here. So I did 2 and 1 just like that. So it broke apart like that. And then again 3. And we have these guys. These guys. So this floor was actually an example of the exterior determining how the interior was going to be. Right here I wanted to do another balcony of sorts because I really like the balconies. I like the way that they look. I'm not sure if it's that wide, but again, still not the correct blocks. This one just divides up to be a perfect little 2 tall section area, so we're going to get that guy in. This is the front of the build. So yeah, we actually had all of the sections sort of worked out based on what I wanted to see on the exterior. So this build is a little bit of the interior determines the exterior, and the exterior determining the interior depending on what floor you're on. So I'm going to go through knowing where all these are at, and I'm going to decorate the outsides of it, and then we're going to go through and just kind of see how I broke down dividing the interior based on the exterior. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up. Something that I wanted to change after doing this was there was a line going through like this, and I wanted to push it in and get rid of the diagonal and make it a little more square, which meant coming into the inside and knocking out a few blocks, which is no big deal. But then I also wanted to add in these stairs, which are floor level. You can see that's where the floor actually would be, and bringing out this section another block. So we're actually going to remove this line and we're going to bring this out, pulling the whole window out and moving it forward this little section. So if you want to have something a little more exact to what I built, that's the change I made. But that also meant coming through and doing something with this to fix the floor. Now at the end of the day, because you can see through it, I did leave the bricks in, and ultimately when you go to decorate, we're going to cover this with either full blocks or carpets. It's one of those unfortunate things where it happens to share the exterior with the interior, so there's not a whole lot we can do about it. Now, let's not spend too much time on this. Effectively, we just want to divide this as best we can. We can isolate a few things here. We have a door that goes to a balcony there. There's a door, 2 doors that go to the same balcony here, and a door that goes to a balcony there. We also have the staircase coming up, and we are likely going to have an attic section. So first thing I see looking at this is probably a best place to have a stairs to be against this back wall here. So I'm just going to get this wall in, or the stair in place, so we have a way to get upstairs. And with that, we pretty much have the staircase going up kind of figured out. Since these 2 doors share a balcony, I'm likely going to just kind of divide a section up. Something like this. It's like this is how I actually divided it up roughly, but there was a lot of just making it up as I went along. So like I knew I wanted to have a thicker interior so we didn't have to look at the granite when you're inside these bedrooms, and ultimately I did decide that these things should all stay in the same room, these 2 doors right here. So we got this room kind of divided out. We'll bring it out like this maybe. And then we're going to have these beams on the outside. So on the inside of this room, it's going to be largely square. And then we have this room already divided out. We know how that's going to go. And then with that figured out, we now have the stairway up. We have this little back section, takes you to the window. We can have access to the back balcony. But then we have this section over here still. So I wanted to continue keeping this kind of separate, so I just did a few beams like this. I did the door directly across from this door. We have this wall to consider, so we'll probably end up doing this beam because that block's probably just going to be hidden. And then we'll do this beam right here. So then we're going to do an interior wall, something along these lines maybe. Keep the door open. And then we have this second bedroom kind of figured out. In fact, I don't like this, so let's square this off like that. There we go. That looks nice. You can see a little bit of the granite on the inside still, but we have our sections divided up. So now we kind of have a bedroom that has its own balcony. We have a little like loft area where you can kind of hang out. We might push this wall back a little bit just to give us a little more space. In fact, we probably could just bring this one like this to hide that granite wall, and then that gives us, again, more space out this way. In fact, we can even put this beam right here so it looks like it's a more rounded corner. And then yeah, this is basically how I just divided the insides. For safety's sake, we'll grab our trapdoors and we will place in a few railings right here, so when you're upstairs you can't just walk off the edge. And then for details, we put in some upside down stairs right here, and then we can put stuff like maybe flower pots on here. Maybe we can do paintings on the back walls, you know, something to spruce it up a little bit and make it interesting, more interesting than it currently is. But we have access to everything. We have 2 bedrooms figured out and a little sitting area kind of plotted out. And yeah, now we can go upstairs to the attic. From this point though, we're just going to start focusing on the roof. The roof is pretty simple. Effectively anywhere that this top slab is around these windows is where I decided I wanted to have the start of my roof be. So we're going to start with the main line right here, and you can see that for this one it's on this level, but for this one it's actually up 2 blocks. So we're actually going to have this one come up this way and come through like this. And then from here I used this one, just kept it going straight across until I reached this point. Now this seems a little awkward, so we'll grab our full planks, and you see we can hide it in like that. It blends perfectly fine, and then we can retain having this staying on this level. That means grabbing some granite and bringing in another layer. So this layer is actually going to be a bit taller, and so is this one. And if we work our way around, this guy also needs to be taller, so we can work on this one as well. Bring this full block up, and then we have this guy which perfectly wraps right like that, and then we can wrap this guy around like this, and you see this is perfectly aligned. So effectively that's all I did, was I made sure that all my lines were lining up for the starting of each of these sections. There is something I did another window right here, so I'm leaving this area blank, and we can take a look at that in just a second. But I just wanted to show you how each of the roofs actually got their start. And then from here I just kind of, you know, picked a count, a block count. So we did, you know, a stair, a full block. Let's do 2 full blocks on this one, and we want to reach a center, so I'm going to mirror it on the other side, and we're going to do the 2 for this one. And then we'll see where we're at. We're still not quite at the center, so let's do 3, because that's how I kind of like to do it. 1 2 3, or 1 2 2 3, or 2 2 3. But it always has an increasing height as you get higher up. There's more blocks as you go higher, and then we're going to just cap it once we reach the center like this, just like that. And then of course you could take your granite and you can start filling in all of the space of the roof, and then that'll show you how much space you have if you want to do anything else with it. I'm just going to texture it. I'm not going to do anything else with it, but like if this was a bigger roof, you could squeeze in even another window perhaps. Now don't get too far ahead of me. I'm going to show you a couple of things here. So when we come to doing the roof, we are going to effectively be bringing up our roof directly in line with the stairs. So this is going to be a 3 tall section, and then this would be a 4 tall section. This is going to hold true regardless, but we're not going to do this part just yet because there is something a little strange about the shape we have here. Normally I would like to take the peaks of my roofs and try to find a common middle ground for them. So I see these guys, they end up right here. That's fine. What about this guy? Well, then we quickly discover that this guy doesn't exactly line up, and if we check these guys, of course they're not going to line up. They're not even the same heights as the other ones. So for this particular build, I did something a little strange, and it was mostly inspired from this little section right here. See, I wanted to make a little balcony section, and I thought the best way to do that would be to have a flat section of the roof. Well, to get a flat section of the roof, we of course are going to need a floor. So I used the dark oak here. I'm just using the spruce because that's what I have on hand at the moment. And I just did a checkerboard pattern, just did a square floor section here to get this this section in. And based off of this, I started following just the classic roof design that I knew I wanted. So I saw this and I knew that this was going to come across, if it was going to be in line with that. And really what I was doing is I was just kind of feeling my way around this. Now, there's no cookie cutter way to make these work every single time, so this is a pretty good skill to learn, is how to just kind of roll with the punches in these various situations and see where things are going to take you. So we see we got a kind of an odd spot here. Maybe we don't want to bring it out this far. Maybe we'll just like cap it somewhere around there. And then we want to have some kind of door. But it was around this point where I realized this is where we're going to actually need something. Like obviously if we want to have a door up onto this balcony, we need to have a section that comes up right here. So we're going to bring this up and we have a little door section right there. Now we need to figure this part out. And then it clicked in my head. Maybe we can make this a big square, big enough to encompass the strangeness of all these things and unify them so we don't have this awkward top. Now, I settled on a 7x7. You could have easily gone 8x8 or 9x9 and that would have encompassed this, and that probably would be fine too, but I went with a 7x7. Now we're going to make them 4 blocks tall all the way around. This is actually going to be a piece of the interior that you can actually enter and walk through, so you can actually get to the top. So we can end up connecting that. I won't go over that in this video, how to connect it, but based on the rest of the interiors that we've done, hopefully you'll be able to figure that out. Now I'm going to find the exact centers of each of them, and I want to have windows on multiples of the sides. Now this one's going to be tricky. You see it's going to be kind of lining up with here, so we might be able to get away with a window, but this one is like right smack dab right in line with that, so there's definitely going to be no window for that one. And then we can cap these in and actually do the details of the windows if you want, which includes of course the leaves and all the trapdoors and slabs and everything else that goes with making these windows. Now, of course, I decided to scrap this window right here. You can see starting to do the frame, it's now immediately in the way of the roof, which told me that this actually is not going to work as a window. So we just have the 2 windows here, and you'll be able to discover things like that as you build things through. So don't stress anything when you come across something, you know, it doesn't work. Just forget about it. Just remove it. It's no big deal if it didn't work. At least you tried. And with this in place, I'm sure you can see where the roof line is going to start. We're going to stay in line with this top block as always. And for these ones, we're just going to wrap them like that. We're not going to try to do anything fancy like this, because this one, you'll never be able to get this one to work just based on how stairs operate in this game. So we're just going to do them like this, and we're going to wrap this all the way around the whole thing. Some of this stuff that you place in, you will still end up removing just based on the nature of how these are going to intersect with other sections of the roof. So, you know, it's fine. You can plot them out. For me, that's the easiest way to do it, is to make sure I plot out everything anyway, and then having to go back and remove them later is no big deal. So for these, these are going to be 2 tall, and then they're going to get a stair, and then they're also going to be 2 tall again on top of that. Not 3 tall, it's just going to be a 2 and a 2, and then we can cap these at the top. And then from here, it'll take a little while to get it all in place, but we are going to install the entirety of the roof. There's little sections like this that you don't actually have to put the wool in, so, you know, just be a little aware where you can save your block materials at. And again, we're just going to start filling in the roof just like this. And just like this, you should be able to have your entire roof in place. I've left a few sections here so we can do them together to kind of show you what I meant by, like, we can bust some of these out to get the roof in, and then we can fix sections like that. And then we have, don't forget to cover the tops of your beams. And on this side right here, I left this whole section open, so this entire thing's just going to get ripped out. And then we're going to place in the wool just like that to cover that up. And everything should come together like that. Make sure you've covered all the gaps. And then we're going to do things to make this look nice. We're just going to cover up some sections kind of like this. And some sections we'll do 3, but we kind of want to give it a little bit of a randomness to it. And that means just kind of overstacking some areas to give it that kind of messed up look. On top of that, we're going to use some gray concrete, and we can come through and we can start doing our texturing with this particular block to not only make it look more textured, but to break up just the solid grayness of it all. So we can go through and we can tackle all of that. It's all in the texturing. We've covered texturing so much now between this video and the last video that hopefully you should be able to get the rest of this taken care of. Be sure to put in all of your doors. I didn't put in any of my doors, but be sure to put in all of your doors, and then you should be able to connect up all the interiors. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of this completed version. So it's very similar, right? We did the same thing with the spiral staircase in the middle. We have the same open section where we did the two 5 wide areas, and then we have our staircase that wraps around and comes up top, and you get a better feel for what these interiors look like when you slap in some roofs with them and really try to beautify it all. And then it wraps around to the balcony, and we have all the railings in place. It looks really nice. And of course the attic. This is the part that we didn't build on the other one, so definitely wanted to come through and make sure that we had a look at this. I did do slabs under this because I was toying with the idea of using some gray concrete powder, but ultimately I didn't like it, and having slabs makes it so your powder doesn't just fall to the ground. So you don't have to do the slabs or anything, but we're able to walk through over here. You can kind of see the 7x7 that we had, and I broke it apart and was able to have access out to the balcony. We got the windows up there, and I'm sure you saw the staircase on the side over here, where if we come up here we can get up to the uppermost section of the tower. So all the parts are accessible, and you can, with just a little manipulation, you can get everything to squeeze in and fit and be able to access every little nook and cranny of this build. And that, guys, is going to do it for this tutorial. I know it was a long one, so if you made it to the end, big thumbs up to you, because it was long and tedious. Hopefully this was a little more block by block than I wanted it to be. I will be avoiding that for the next and last video in this little mini series with the texturing. Next time we're just going to kind of jump into a build and kind of take it from there, and we'll see if you guys are able to take these building concepts and really apply them. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if any of you guys actually build this version of this build. Be sure to send it to my Twitter. There's a link in the description down below for that. I really would love to see them. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one.